Hello, this is Paul, the developer behind Void Destroyer 2. This is a early controls tutorial for Void Destroyer 2. This is going to go through some of the very basics to help you smooth over any kind of learning curve or any significant learning curve in the real beginning of the game. So most likely you were able to dock with the first base. Here I am in the starting Hornet. While docked, you can move around with WASD. You can look around by holding the right mouse button and moving the mouse. These controls are going to be worked on. These are just preliminary controls during early access, so these might change slightly. Just really briefly, while you're docked, you can buy ships. If you have any ships in the hangar, you can access them here. The main thing for first players is probably a mission here. You can select the mission and you can accept it. Current ship is where you buy upgrades, you customize them. Commerce is where you can hire ships. You can also hire transport and mining ships and buy cargo for them, or if you own ships you can also buy cargo for them. Base management is when you actually own a base, and the simulator has tutorials. Alrighty, so let's go ahead, let's undock. There we go. By the way, you can skip cutscenes via the escape key. Alrighty, so we are in space in our little tiny Hornet. Let's talk about basic controls, basic ship controls. So in Void Destroyer 2, your ship can thrust in 6 directions. It can go up, down, left, right, forward, and back. Void Destroyer 2 has Newtonian physics. That means that when you let go, your ship has to thrust in the opposite direction. Void Destroyer 2 also has a way of setting the ship's speed. This is how traditional space sims, I guess you could say, worked, where you wouldn't just hold the W button down for forward and the speed would be capped. In Void Destroyer 2, there is no max speed. You would just keep accelerating forever, as I'm doing right now. So instead, you have speed settings. With the backspace key, you set what is known as cruise speed. That's the ship's optimal speed. Every ship has slightly different cruise speed. The smaller the ship, usually the faster. Cruise speed is defined as its speed as well as the time to get to a speed, to that speed setting. So certain ships might have a decent cruise speed but might need like 3 seconds to get there, so they won't be quite as nimble as the Hornet. You can hit stop via the backslash key, and that sets your speed to 0, and then your ship automatically thrusts to be stopped. So if we hit backspace, notice when I change directions, my ship tries to compensate via other thrusters for that directional change. If I use a thruster to thrust up and I let go, my ship will compensate via thrusting in the opposite direction. I can turn that off via the F key. Now when I thrust, I maintain that vector. So this is pretty important for evading fire, for maneuvering to line up shots, things like that. You can also increase the speed setting and decrease it via the equals key and the minus key. You can do that as well. In fact, you can go into reverse. So WASD, really important. Q and E to thrust up and down. Again, for maneuvering, like hey, lining up with a dock, you can just use Q in this case instead of pointing your ship up and flying forwards. Backspace to set cruise speed, backslash to set 0 speed, equals and minus. Now these controls, of course, you can remap. You can hit escape, control mapping, ship, movement, remap these controls to whatever you like. In addition, you can also roll. Roll to the left with Z, roll to the right with C. And these are the basic flight controls. You also have camera settings. F2 gives you this sort of close chase mode, nearly in the cockpit. If you notice, you get a slightly different angle, you get a slightly different wider view. F3 gives you the chase camera, which gives you a much wider view, and it's good for avoiding certain objects or collisions. It's also good for lining up targets. For example, normally I wouldn't see this ship, but with F3 I don't have to turn quite as much to see that ship. F4 is a turret camera. This ship doesn't have any turrets equipped. F5 is what's known as the command camera, where you can zoom in and out. It's a little bit more advanced, so this tutorial is not going to cover it. So let's talk about the basics of combat, which probably means I'm going to be destroyed by these ships here. So I can target a ship just by left clicking on it. If this was an enemy, I could press the T button to target the nearest enemy, or the R key to target the nearest enemy targeting me. But in this case, because this ship is not the enemy, I just left click on it. So notice that when it's targeted, we get an aim assist. Now this ship is hostile to me now and has turrets. It's likely going to destroy me. So it's very important to target a ship to get the aim assist, otherwise it's very, very hard to aim. Now I'm going to hit time dilation with the pause key, just so I don't get destroyed right away. Look at the targeting indicator. You have the ship's distance to you, that's the first indicator. The ship's speed, -266, the ship is moving backwards. The ship's health, 74%. You also have these red red indicators. This means that this ship is targeting you. And in fact, if it wasn't targeted, you can see that it's targeting little indicators slightly redder than other ones. These orange markers, these vertical ones, means that you're in primary weapons range. These horizontal yellow ones mean that you're in secondary weapon range. Many ships have secondary weapons. Let me demonstrate that right here. Holding down the X key for the Hornet, and I fired off a very powerful charged blast. It's also very powerful because it instantly hits. So a ship that can evade your fire, or you simply miss with your bullets, the Hornet can actually hit via the secondary fire. So as promised, I was destroyed. So let's move on to some other topics. Like I said, while docked, you have an access to a simulator, and you can have these controls too via these tutorials: flight basics, camera basics, combat basics, advanced, and things like that. You would select one of these and then hit start simulation. Let's go ahead and undock. Here we go. So we covered basic speed settings, basic maneuvers, basic combat, using secondary weapons, how important targeting is. But also a very important thing is how to enter overworld mode. And let's even discuss what overworld mode is. So I'm going to press Shift Enter to enter overworld mode. There we go. Overworld mode is the fast travel method of Void Destroyer 2. While in this mode, you have a sort of a 2D map that you can zoom in and out using the mouse wheel. You can give the ship commands via right-clicking and then left-clicking to where you want to go. You can also right-click on objects. There, I just right-click on this ship, meaning I follow this ship. I can right-click on this base, meaning I'm going to go to this base. or I can just right click on empty space and left click and go towards that particular location. As I travel in the overworld, I'm going to see different locations pop up, different bases, different factions, different ships. In fact, enemy pirates might find me and might come and get me. So you can also select objects. This will focus you in on them. You can zoom in and out on the object. While selected by default, you have auto slow checked and autofocus. I can select an object and I can say go to as an alternate way of going to a certain location. But let's keep going. Let's find another base. Another function of overworld mode is you can use the primary burn and secondary burn. These use fuel, but greatly increase your speed. Now, fuel is gotten again, or you can refuel at a base for free, or while in space you can refuel at refueling platforms. Now that I'm very close to this object, I get this red circle. If I go past the red circle, I'm going to be forced into ship mode, but I don't have to wait this long. I can just click ship mode here, or I can press shift enter. Alrighty, so let's go ahead, let's dock with this base. So some players ask, hey, where do I dock? Where's the docking tube? And one way to know is by pressing opening up comms with the base. So first I'm going to target the base. I'm going to press shift C, and I'm going to say request docking permission. Now I have this docking indicator right there telling me where I can dock. I can go ahead and dock with the base following the lines. I need to have the base targeted in order to dock with it, and I just gently fly into it. There we go. So now let's try a basic mission and just kind of recap everything. I'm going to click missions. We're going to say we want to do the Minesweeper mission. We're going to accept this mission, and we're going to undock. There we go. Now we're going to see an indicator where the mission location is. There it is. If you notice, it's pointing sort of far off distance. That's because we need to enter into overworld mode. Again, it's shift enter. There we go. And we're in overworld mode. We can just right click on the mission location to fly towards it. And that is how you get into mission space. So I'm gonna just ignore that, and I'm gonna fly into this asteroid field to try to recap everything again while I'm being shot at by horrible pirates. Let's see, what's a ship that we can reasonably take? There's one. Yeah, so WASD for basic thrusters, backspace for cruise speed. In combat, cruise speed is very important because you might be using different maneuvers, but cruise speed will keep your ship going forward. Press T to target the nearest enemy. Press R to target the nearest enemy targeting you. It's important to prioritize enemies that are targeting you, just because you want to get rid of your biggest threats first. And don't forget to target something to get aim assist. Don't forget to make sure you're in range of weapons, and don't forget to make sure you use secondary weapons. There we go. Alrighty, looks like that's all the time I have because I'm about to be destroyed by these pirates. Keep in mind that there's areas in the game where you might not be welcome and you might be vastly outgunned. That'll just make it feel sweeter when you are able to go back and get your revenge. So I hope this video explainer helps you get your foothold into the game. If you still have questions, comments, feedback, feel free to let me know on the Steam forums. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your interest in the game. and I'll talk to you later.